Hello, everybody. My name is Kaylee and I work for Swindon Youth for Christ, and this is Elevate, where we are lifting our faith and strengthening our lives 1 week at a time. This is week 7, and we are diving into the context of the books of 1st and 2nd Corinthians to see what was God doing then and what does He want us to do about it now. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So these letters are really interesting because within the letters, we're seeing references to other letters that people from Corinth have sent, and other letters that Paul has sent that we don't have access to anymore. Now, let's set the scene when it comes to Corinth, because Corinth was crazy. The church is surrounded by some crazy beliefs, crazy ideas, and a really difficult situation to grow your faith in. So Corinth had this mountain called the Acrocorinthus, and at the top it had a massive temple to Aphrodite, who's one of the Greek gods. And at the bottom there's a temple to Apollo, and then there's also near one of the coasts a temple to Poseidon. So this is a very Greek religious area. All parts of the lives of the people of Corinth revolved around things like idolatry, wealth, prostitution, perversion, class. And everybody would go to these massive feasts. These feasts were the epicenter or the focus of all social interactions. Anyone who was anyone was going there. And if you weren't, who did you think you were? It was a place where power was something that could be grabbed at. The rich would go, they would eat lots of food, they would drink a lot. The poor would be there, but they would just be able to grab whatever crumbs were left over and nobody cared about them. It wasn't a place for healthy social interaction, but a place to flaunt what you had. And that's a massive issue that was there in Corinth, was this class divide. So the wealthy would often take the poor to court because they knew that the poor couldn't afford it, and then they would gain more money from it, and the poor would suffer for it. And people in the church were starting to do the same thing, which is something that Paul is immediately calling out. Like, no, don't do that. Let's discuss it and deal with it within the church. Let's not cause greater divides, but let's rather have greater unity. And there were a lot of other issues that were happening in Corinth. There were these people called the sophists, and they were like modern day influencers, but back then. And they would stand up and they would start talking, and they would try and convince as many people as they could to believe what they believed. And the more people that they convinced, the better they were, the more influence they had. And these people who followed them around would give them money. And so these are people who are skilled at arguing, skilled at debating, skilled at getting you onto their teams. And this was another problem for the church, because then these people were trying to tell them things that simply weren't true, simply weren't gospel truth, and simply didn't follow the law of love that Christ gave us. But the immorality, the perversion, the greed that was all over Corinth was also an issue that was starting to pervert the church, that was starting to get into the church. And it's something that Paul is talking directly into. It's really unfortunate, because once Paul started this church, he was expecting them to grow and mature in their faith way faster than they were able to, because of the things that were surrounding them, and because they were so easily drawn back into those things. There's a lack of order, unity, and general morality in the church. And that's why this book is so important to us as Christians, because it gives a complete foundational outline of how we as Christians should be living and dealing with the distractions around us. Thanks for watching, everybody. As always, our faith is something to be grown and nurtured until it bears good fruit. So let's go into this week and make the word alive for us again. Don't just talk the talk, let's walk the walk and continue to elevate our faith a week at a time. See you next week. Bye!